So Darren Till has a fight and he wins, but he calls out Carl Froch afterwards. Watch this video. Hello, welcome to On Me Edson. I hope you're all well. So Darren Till, ex-UFC star, of course, he's got into boxing. He's got on this Misfits boxing. He's now had a couple of fights and he's 2-0. He's won 2 of his fights. He had a fight last night against Darren Stewart. And yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a brawl. It was a bit of a slugfest from both fighters. Darren Till was landing the harder shots, but the other guy was just taking them. And he won. You know, I kind of agree with it. But I kind of look at the way Darren Till is fighting in terms of a boxing sense. And I can say, look, tough as nails. I'm not saying anything but. And he's been training boxing. He's been doing it, you know, properly for a couple of years in terms of the training, in terms of the level of coaching that he's getting. There's no doubt. But there are levels to this game, right? And you can see the way he's fighting, right? He leaves himself wide open. Now, if you're leaving yourself wide open to opponents who also can't box that well, then you know where your levels are. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't an entertaining fight or anything like that. And I'm not saying at all that it wasn't, you know, they weren't trying or, you know, it wasn't a slugfest. It was entertaining. It was good. It was decent to watch. But there are levels to this. So I put Darren Till as a low level boxer. He's not even that good in many ways. And his opponent was just the same. Look, these two guys are UFC guys. And they've taken on a bit of boxing. Fair play to them. But they can't get onto any professional boxing cards, of course, because nobody's going to touch them, right? Because they're just not good enough. But they've got onto the Misfits thing. Okay, fine, you got onto the Misfits thing. But then you're coming out afterwards and you're calling out the Tommy Furies and you or whatever, whether that fight would ever happen. I don't think he even thinks it will happen. This is Darren Till. Jake Paul and God knows whoever else. He was talking about all the fights that, you know, have fallen through. He was supposed to fight Chavez Jr. as well on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson undercard as well, but that all fell through. And he could see there's a frustration. He couldn't get fights, but then he's kind of calling out Carl Froch as well. Now, I'm not sure what the problem is between these two, whether they've been backwards and forwards in terms of jibing at each other. But I'm not sure that Darren Till should be calling out the likes of Carl Froch. But let me make this perfectly clear. I don't blame Darren Till for this. Whom I blame, actually, is Carl Froch. I blame Carl Froch for enticing people to start calling him out. And the reason why I say this is this. I've got so much respect for Carl Froch. Why wouldn't you? You know, unified super middle-weight champion, fought in front of 80,000 people. You know, he's comical. He's an entertainer. But he was a fantastic fighter, right? One of the best this country has ever seen. One of the best, right? And we know that. But the way he talks about other fighters or low-level fighters, like the likes of Jake Paul and possibly these UFC guys and, you know, the Darren Till, he's very dismissive in a way that kind of entices them to challenge him. In that, he'll say, I'll knock his teeth out, I'll do this, I don't want to get back in the ring, but if I did, I'd knock them out. And the way he's talking is if he's saying, no, I definitely don't want to get back in the ring, but you kind of think that on some level, he thinks, well, maybe I would get back in the ring. So this is where I think a lot of the blame is put on Carl Froch here, because it's just the manner and of way he talks and what he actually says can bring on this kind of reaction from other people. Now, in terms of ex-boxers retiring and then come back into the fold, I just totally disagree with it. If you've retired and then 6 months later, just like Tyson Fury, right, does, you're coming back in, okay, fine. But if you've been out of the game 4, 5, 6 years and you're over 40 years old, you're over, you know, late 30s, over 40 years old, certainly if you've been retired 10 years old, you should just be a pundit. You should just be somebody who talks about boxing in those sense. You don't bring yourself into the mix and say, oh, I could fight him, I could do that. This is what Carl Froch tends to do, right? But he should not even be talking about that. And Darren Till, to call somebody out like that, it's almost like you're as bad as Jake Paul for calling out these, has-beens or non-boxers or retired people. don't do it. Just don't lower yourself to that kind of thing. You don't need to do that. You don't need to lower yourself to, calling out the likes of Carl Froch. Now, whether Carl Froch is still fit and able, that kind of thing, for me is totally irrelevant. I don't care. I don't even want to entertain the notion of Carl Froch coming back into the ring, let alone trying to find somebody like Darren Till. Now, okay, let's just say hypothetically they did. Well, we don't know, because he's a mid-40s man, and you're fighting against Darren Till, who's still, in his prime per se, or certainly a lot younger. He's younger, he's probably stronger and bigger. So, putting these two together, it's not a good matchup. Now, that's got nothing to do with the quality that they are. Darren Till can never ever get anywhere near Carl Froch's standard of when he was boxing. But say that was 10 years ago. That's over 10 years ago. So you can't even, this is where the problems start occurring. And this is where you get this perpetuation of, current fighters calling out ex-boxers. And you think, well, why? What are you doing? Just fight people within your sect, let's say. Just fight people who are current boxers, who are young enough, who are fit enough. And that's the problem with the likes of Darren Till, that they've been brought in this misfits world, and they're starting to call people out. They're copying what Jake Paul has done and what Logan Paul has done. These other kind of misfitsy, YouTubey type people. So they're just calling people out, just trying to get some kind of, some kind of clout, some kind of better payday, whatever. And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. But if you like what I do here, just keep on watching the videos. But Darren Till, look, he had a decent fight, a decent win, but calling out Carl Froch, just stay in your lane and just stay. It's not as if I'm saying that you would either beat him or not beat him. I really don't care. It's just that I think you just stay in your lane. Carl Froch, just stop, commenting on other fighters like you do. Keep the respect that you've gained from every fight fan out there. Just keep that respect. Do your thing. And Darren Till should go and fight some other people. But he is at the real risk of making himself look like a bit of a melon here. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, keep on watching the videos. Don't forget you can go to the website revelatoralf.com/books for all my sports books. And with that, I'll catch you again in another video coming very soon. Bye now.